So welcome everyone to my presentation. Thanks for joining me. I'm excited to present the Aten tuition calculator today. My name is Brent Robbins and I'm a front-end web developer here at the Aten Design Group. And before I get started, we're curious about what you are doing at your school to communicate tuition to prospective and current students. Let us know in the chat. Do you currently have a tuition calculator? And if so, what are the pain points that you have with it, or the features that you would like to see added to it? If you don't have a tuition calculator, would you like one added? And if so, what would you like it to generally do? Now, that out of the way, let's get started. In the presentation, I'm going to be covering obviously the Aten's newly created tuition calculator application. And to start off, I'll be sharing some background on why we initially developed this application for a client and how we accomplished their list of requirements. Then I'll cover more in detail their the application, the features and benefits. And then next, I'll do a tour of the front end and back end. And at the end, I'll save some time for questions. So let's get started. So over the years, we've had the opportunity to work with some great schools, including Stanford University, Georgia Tech, University of Illinois, Nebraska Wesleyan University, Millikan University, Pueblo Community College, and Ames Community College. In our first tuition calculator we developed was for the Stanford University summer session website. We built that within their existing Drupal site, which we also developed. Oops. There we go. However, this new tuition calculator was originally created for the University of Colorado. They connected with us because they really liked the tuition calculator we previously developed for Stanford. However, that application was developed within Drupal, and their requirements kind of steered us in a different direction. So the following is a summary of CU's original project requirements, but I assume that some of these would be shared by most schools. So for integration, CU does use Drupal for their websites. However, they did not want to add a new application into their existing Drupal platform, nor did they want to spin up a whole new Drupal site just for this application. Along with living outside their platform, they want to embed the calculator visually seamlessly into their websites. And it needs to follow the university's brand guidelines. As for features, they wanted the ability to fully manage the application's content. And they, of course, wanted the application and the content management system to be easy to use, since their staff will also be using the application every day. They wanted the application to work for for undergrads and for their graduate students. And they required it to be fully accessible, to be compliant, and also to pass their dedicated internal accessibility team testing. The application must work on all modern browsers and devices, so it needs to be fully responsive and mobile friendly. Finally, for costs, they wanted the application to be as low cost of ownership as possible, meaning they wanted to keep the monthly or annual reoccurring expenses as low as possible. This includes the costs incurred maintaining the application security and stability. So how did we accomplish this? The application, we built this application using the popular framework, or I should say library, React, and we also leveraged Next.js framework. We chose this stack since Aten has a large number of React developers that can help support this application. And React is a very popular, globally supported library that has a large community of experienced developers. Next.js helps speed along the local development and process, and also requires zero configuration. It can support static server-side rendering and incremental server-side rendering. For performance, we use Next.js to render the application statically, but in the back end, it will check the database or the content management system every 30 seconds to a minute to see if there's been any changes in the database. And if there has been, it'll update it and it'll be recached again. This is referred to incremental server-side rendering, so ISR. Next.js also has its own routing system, API routes, and also components to handle links, images, SEO, and more. To seamlessly integrate the app into their site, we used a simple iframe. However, we needed a JavaScript library, and we found one called iframe resizer to properly scale the ever-changing application height, and also to hide like a side scroll bar, so it visually you wouldn't be able to even tell that this application is being iframed. And then we also leveraged Chakra UI, which is a popular JavaScript UI library to speed up development, to keep costs down. And it also helps make the application components very themable. And that also helped us be able to follow CU's brand guidelines. As far as features go, of course, they wanted the ability to manage the calculator with ease. So to do so, we chose sanity.io for the content management system. Personally, because I have experience using it and have evaluated many other popular options, and I feel that this is the best choice for this application. Sanity is a very unopinionated CMS that can work with any type of framework. It includes an API with live data, which allows real-time collaboration within its CMS. It also does an amazing job at tracking changes and includes a best-in-class versioning system where you can easily see who changed, what changed, when it happened, visually in the CMS where that change occurred. And that's all done within the content management system, and the Sanity refers to it as their studio. And the this application, the studio, is really easy to use. And Sanity is actually trusted by brands like Nike, Sonos, Cloudflare, National Geographic, and Burger King. And as for work for undergrads and for graduate students, I developed the application so we actually didn't have to create multiple calculators or multiple applications, but in one tuition calculator, it'll work for undergrads and grad students. Later in the project, CU requested the ability to handle financial aid. And again, with the flexibility of this tuition calculator, it was able to add that functionality without much additional work. And they also wanted it to be fully accessible and work in all modern browsers and devices. And with our help, uh, with our in-house QA and accessibility expert, Michaela, we worked together to make sure the application was fully accessible. After we thoroughly tweaked and retested the application, and once it passed all our testing, we passed it along to CU's dedicated accessibility team, and they came back with one very small tweak, which we handled promptly. They even gave us the feedback of like, this was probably one of the most impressive performing applications they've ever tested. And we've also done our own browser and device testing to make sure that the application worked great on every platform. And throughout the project, we kept in mind our clients' concerns of keeping the costs low, and um, while using Sanity.io for the application's content management system, we were able to use their nonprofit plan. This includes a list of features and capacity limits that are even more generous than their general free tier plan for everyone. And if you require any further resources, you will only need to pay for what you need. That's their pricing model. Since Sanity.io is a commercial service, they also maintain the stability and security for the content management system in their API. That being said, you still need a developer to update the NPM packages and rebuild and redeploy the CMS. But with a little bit of work, this process can be automated, and then that will be automatically handled. But if you need to manually handle it, the update process just takes a couple minutes. As for the application hosting, we are currently using Netlify's free tier. And similar to Sanity.io, if you need more resources, you only need to pay for what extra resources you require. Netlify is also a managed service, so there is no extra expense for maintaining this security and stability for hosting. Overall, this application's recurring costs and services for services and maintenance is as low as you can go. Overall features for this application, we have a rock solid platform with the CMS and the hosting services being provided by battle tested and proven to be secure, reliable, scalable, and performant. The flexibility and system with conditional logic. The tuition calculator includes a layer of conditional logic that's available for many layers, including question layer, the questions options, and also the results and the line items within the results. This will be more clear when I demo the application. Also, you can share the results, so the students or the parents using the tuition calculator can export their results as a PDF, and that PDF can be attached to an email or printed as well. Answers are stored in browser, which means when a student or a parent's using the tuition calculator, their answers are stored in the browser's temporary local storage. This allows them to be able to refresh the app or close the page and revisit it, and their answers will be stored as long as that cache is preserved. And this is just a feature of modern applications. As far as accessibility, made sure that the tuition calculator passes all accessibility tests. This ensures the students and parents are able to access and use the app with ease. Uh, the application actually comes with a staging environment. So along with the live tuition calculator, there's a separate dev, or you could call staging tuition calculator. And this allows you to test content and configurations before you add them to your live app, which is really nice. And with a themable design, we can easily switch out colors and fonts to match your school's brand guidelines. However, if you require a custom design, we can also accommodate for that as well. As far as the CMS features go, Sanity Dio's Studio CMS has a very clean interface that is void of any extra unnecessary features for your authoring experience. Unlike other CMSs like Drupal, WordPress, the configuration is done within the code. So you're not going to, so you'll only see what you need to use to manage your site's content, and not a ton of other configuration links and screens and options. Built within the CMS is a button to easily duplicate your content. This greatly speeds up the initial setup of content, so you can easily duplicate a piece of content that's close to the content that you're wanting to create, and then make those necessary changes, and you're done. Real-time collaboration. The CMS includes the ability to see your team also logged into the CMS when editing content, similar somewhat to like Google Docs. You can collaborate collaborate within this environment without any worries of content collision, overriding or locking each other out, which is really nice. Content revision system, so you can roll back changes. The CMS includes a very robust versioning system that allows you to easily see individual content changes, where in the interface, where you can see where that content is, who and when it was changed, and the ability to revert an individual change or even groups of changes. Also includes a content search, so you can quickly jump to a piece of content that you want to edit. Overall benefits. Since the application is built with flexibility in mind, there is less chances we'll need to extend the application. If you can, if you can use what's already been built, then you should be set. However, if you need a custom feature, we're more than happy to work with you on developing those to suit your needs. With the choices that we've made for the CMS and hosting, this makes ownership, which includes recurring and maintenance costs, low and almost to no cost. With the flexibility and logic system provided by the tuition calculator, your students and parents using the app will be provided more accurate results. Using this calculator will also help explain what these costs are even for, and how it's being applied to those results. Since the tuition calculator is easy to use and gives a nice breakdown of all the costs with explanations, it'll help inform students and parents and will avoid needing to call your staff to help walk them through everything. Since the infrastructure is already built, we just need to set up a couple of accounts, clone the app, customize the theme to fit your school's brand. And with some training, your staff will be able to start building their own new tuition calculator within no time at all. Great. So let's tour the app. We'll start with the front end. So this is a demo version of the tuition calculator within like a fake page of CU's site. This is actually just an image up here and the site column and the footer. This just helps illustrate what this would look like within a page. And this is actually iframed, and this is the same application, just not iframed. So you can see like what it looks like without being included in the site. So the first off, we have the start screen, and with the start screen we have the title, a body right here, and and like a call to action button, which can all be customized. And once you click that, it'll move you into the series of questions to calculate the results. And at the very top, we can see a little progress bar. So it'll show you where you're generally at in the series of questions. And then we have a title. And below that, we would have an optional area body for description. And this particular question didn't need a description, but you'll see in I think in a couple questions we'll see one with a description. And then we have the list of answers. So you would say like what level or degree you're in. So I'm undergrad. And then you would click next question. And I don't know if you noticed, but like this is actually grayed out. So, and you can't click it until you've made a decision. So there's some validation there. And below that, we have a start over button. And this would actually take the user to that start screen and would clear out all of the questions as well. So nothing would be stored and they would be just essentially just starting over. So I'm going to click next, and then this is to, obviously you can read this, select residency. I'm just going to say resident, and then I will pick, I'll be living on campus within the residence hall. And then they ask about insurance, and the this is the line for a description. And so now I'm just going to kind of power through like all of these questions. But you can see like what type of questions we're encountering. And then once I've hit the end, this will dynamically change to see results. So you would click to see results, and then it's going to calculate it and then send you to the result screen that'll show you a breakdown of all of the estimated expenses. So we have the overall estimate, and this is for one semester. And then we have the ability to toggle between one semester or 2 semesters. And this isn't just like blindly doubling the price, because we do have expenses. And you can see in this column right here, we have per semester expenses, but we do have like per year expenses. We have one-time expense, so it's not going to be doubling those expenses. So it does a smart calculation of the expenses. So that's what that's used for. And then we have below Our results are grouped in, I call them result categories. So the category is tuition. And this is the title of or this is the total, I should say, of this section. And obviously we only have one line item in here, so that's pretty easy to see. But for example, in student fees, you have many fees involved, but it's nice to see the overall total. And next to the total of the category, we have a little information link and a little collapsible container that has a description for this category. And you can include links if you'd like. It's just a general like WYSIWYG body. And below is the line item. So let's look at this section. So we have a line item. This is the title of the line item, the cost of the line item, the frequency of the line item. And then you also have the ability to add help text specifically for an individual line item, which is really nice. And you can see there's this is one example of this optional fee. This is more of a visual cue than anything because it doesn't really affect the pricing, but it does inform the parent or the student that this is an optional fee. And at the bottom, after all the result categories, the line items, their totals and whatnot, we have a disclaimer that you can edit. We have a button to print the results, and this will export it as a PDF, which you can print, or you could save, or you could email, send as an attachment. And then again, we still have the start over button, which will shoot you to that start screen, but will remove all the questions. But if you want to just edit your questions, you would just click edit questions here, and that'll send you to the first question. Then you can go through the series of questions and then edit your answers. So you would do that, and then you'd go to take you to that first question, and then you would be able to like either edit your answer, or you can keep your answer and just progress through the tuition calculator. Again, this is that's it for the front end of the tuition calculator. This is the tuition calculator, just the direct URL of this example tuition calculator on iframed, you could say. And this would be iframed, integrated into the page. And then this is an example of a dev version of, or the staging environment for the app. So for the tuition calculator, you would just go to /dev, and then we would see this banner on every screen, and you could progress through the tuition calculator and see and like test the results for the dev version of your tuition calculator and see, if everything lines up as you would expect. Also, there's a little debug button at the bottom left, which kind of shows your data in like a JSON format, just that helps kind of really see like how everything's structured. Mainly was used for myself, but you can easily also clear out the data. So that's the dev version of the app. And that kind of concludes the front end of the application. Now let's move to the back end, or the content management system. And this is Sanity. And so we have our dashboard, and we can see like who's logged in. And really it's just right now it's just me. And this isn't CUs. I've moved into like a demo version for Aten for the tuition calculator. So let's get started by looking at the actual tuition calculator, the live version, and then we can just quickly look at the dev version, but the dev version is essentially the same. But let's start here. We have the title and the description, or the body, and that would be seen. We'll just start over here. That is represented here. So you can change the title, the description, and the start call to action button. Next, we have the series of questions that are going to be potentially, I should say, presented to the visitor, student, or parent. And this isn't where you necessarily create them, but this is where you assign them to the live tuition calculator. And the reasoning behind that is we don't want to assume that all questions that are created are going to be on the live one. We want you to be able to manually add. So you would, if you wanted to add a question, you would just click add item here and then search for the question's title. So, so living would be, so where would you be living? And then you would select that. And then you would be able to also manually sort where you would like it to be in the series of questions. And if you wanted to remove it, you would just click the little trash can icon. Of course, this doesn't remove the question from the system, but removes it from being presented in the application, which is really nice. And if you wanted to actually edit or go and visit a specific question, like see what the content or configuration is of a particular question, you would just click one of these links. So for example, where will you be living? Let's click that and it'll send you to that question. And then you can make your changes or whatnot here. I'm just going to go back. So that's how this question system works here. It's essentially kind of like a queue and sets up what questions are going to be potentially presented. And same thing with the result categories. We didn't want to assume that all result categories will be necessary or required or even used in all tuition calculators. So you can create tuition, like the questions or result categories for future, um, for like future semesters or future years. So we would do the same thing here. You would click add item, and then you would add the category you're looking for, like living expense, and then you can reorder it. And then if you wanted to remove it, you could remove it. Again, it does not delete it, just removes it from the tuition calculator app. Then the final field is the disclaimer that was seen on the results page, and that can be managed here. And we have the publish button. And once it sees a change, it'll be highlighted green. And obviously there's no changes right now, so it hasn't been changed. It's at the published state. And so that's how like this, the, like if you're in the Drupal world, you would call this like content type. This is how this works. And the cool thing about this, with Sanity, they have a concept called a singleton. So I don't have to add or hide the, like the whole ability to add another tuition calculator. It's, you only have two. Later on, we might change that, but there was a reasoning behind that. And so that's the live version. And the dev one is literally identical to the live version, but you know, it feeds that the dev version of the app. And the cool thing about this is, like, let's say this is the live version's fall and you wanted to test out the summer semester, you could fill the dev version with the summer semester questions and results and test that out. And so from here, you can add, you can mix like questions or results that are in the live calculator or ones that aren't. It's completely up to you, and there's no requirement there. Like you have to use just questions that are also being used in the live one. You can use ones that aren't, and you can use ones that are. Like if you wanted to test out a new question, you would probably like essentially mock the same setup of questions that you have in the live one, and then you'd insert the new one here and test how it works. And then if everything looks good, then you would go to your live tuition calculator and then make that change, and then you know that it'll work just as expected. So that's how those two items work. Now let's move on to where the real power is, and that's within these questions. So let's look at, let's see what, we'll look at where will you be living? Actually, let's see. No, sorry, scratch that. We want to look at what campus level are you interested in? And this is, again, this is just a mock fake tuition calculator that I created for testing purposes and for demo purposes. And so this isn't CU's. Now, for each question, we have a title, we have a slug. So this is kind of like the identifier. And we have a description, and this is optional. As you could see in CUs, some of them took advantage of a description and some of them didn't really necessarily need it. Like the title was descriptive enough, but you do have the option to add a nice description for each. And now let's get into like the magic of this application. So this is, let me get a drink of water because this is a lot. Okay, sorry. So in the show logic, we have two types of show logic. We have what I refer to the optional text logic, or the option numeric logic. And this one that we already have is an example of the text logic. So this is how this works. You would select text logic, and then you would need to first select the question that you want to evaluate. So in this logic, so what I'm going to do is I want to evaluate the answer provided by the visitor of this question. So where will you be living? And the value that I want it to equal would be on campus. So that's the machine value of the answer that I'm evaluating for this particular question. And so this logic, what this logic is used for is if we want to even show this whole entire question to the visitor, to the parent, or to the student. And we have the ability to hide it. Or if there is no logic, there's like, I want a question to always be presented to a visitor, you don't have to worry about this. For example, the credit hours, you can see there's no logic here. And that the reasoning behind that is we want all visitors to see that question. However, I don't want to present this particular question to people that aren't going to be living on campus. And that's why I'm using this show logic. Now, you actually have the ability to not just only evaluate one question, you can layer multiple layers of logic here. So you still have the ability to add more. You could add another text logic here and pick a different question. So what school you're interested in. So let's say we're only going to show this question for people that are going to be on campus and that are picking the law school. And for that to work, I can use so these are my logic conditions, but or my layers of logic, but then I have this field below it, this logic condition. I can change it to an and logic or logic. So simply or logic, all I need is one of these to be true. And if I want and logic, then both of these have to be true. And there are times where you will need either one. And so you would pick which one that you would like. And finally, in the show logic, if you wanted, so these previous examples are string logic. So to get even more, I guess, advanced, we have this optional, this option numeric logic. And so with that, a good question, or probably the only question we could use, would be the how many credit hours, because like with numeric logic, the question has to only, you can only use a question that has numeric answers. And so for how many credit hours, they're all just numeric. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 16. And so we would pick that question, and then we would enter in that the value. So this would be like, let's say 6. So that's the number that we want to evaluate. But we have not only the ability to say equals, so we want it to be exactly 6 credit hours. We can do not equal, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. And so let's say less than or no, let's say greater than or equal to. So the student has to be they have to have selected 6 or more, obviously, credit hours to see this question. And this was used in tuition. This is necessary in some tuition calculators. So now you have the ability to add all of this logic here. And this system here is not just on the question level. And I'm going very in detail on this because this exact conditional logic for showing is used in multiple places. So I've thoroughly covered how this works. Now let me show you where it also works, and that would be one of the many or a few places is within the option sets. So what I refer to option sets, what that means is when you're looking at a question, this is the option. So the list of options that you pick, that is something that you can change or change what's being presented, I should say. So instead of creating like a bunch of different questions to accommodate different conditions, you can have one question and then different option sets to accommodate for different scenarios. So in this example, we only have one, and if I click on it, this is what an option set values include. We have a admin title. So admin titles aren't shown to the front end. It's just shown right here. And this has, as you can see right here, that same logic system is actually within the option set. And so how that worked to hide or show the whole entire question, that can work if used to hide or show the option set. And then you have below the actual option. So this is like if you pick standard, this is the machine value that's stored, standard, premium, whatnot. So that's these are the lists of questions. And if I wanted to say, oh, this is only going to be for law students, I can now add the logic to do so. And then, so this would be the options for law students. And then I would create another option set for the business school students. And, you know, that makes it very robust and powerful. And of course, you can have those very specific option sets and then kind of like a fallback one that would show if those didn't equal true and show, it would be like all other students that didn't equal business or law school, they get presented this option set. Or if you have a very simple question, you can just leave it like this. So that is how questions work. Now, now that we've seen like how questions work, let's look at the results. So the result categories, we have the living expense title for it, the description, and then we have the line items. And with a line item, we have a title, the admin title. This little option right here would be that little flag that on the front end would say if it's optional or not. We have the description that would be collapsed in that little info section. And then we have the value. And I'll come back to this, but after that we have the frequency. And so we can either choose one time semester or per year. And then below that, we have the familiar logic system. So each line item you can specifically target. So this would be the line item if they picked that they are living on campus and they picked standard. And since I have the or conditional logic, or sorry, and conditional logic, both of those have to equal true. And so this, I have two of these line items. One's going to show if you picked standard, and one of them is going to pick or show if you have premium. So that's the logic system for that. So you have different line items showing for different result or different answers that the visitor submitted. And then, so the last piece of this would be the value. And right now we have a simple value. So it's just a flat value that's applied to the to this line item. Or we have the ability to, I'm going to click add item. You have the ability to do a calculated value. And so how this works is, let's say you did 100, and then you can pick a mathematical operation, and let's say multiplication, and let's do credit hours as an example. So what this line item can do is it would multiply a factor of how many credit hours you have. So if you pick 2 credit hours, it'd be $200. And so then you don't have to do a ton of individual line items for to accommodate for all the different variations. You can do one line item and then do this mathematical calculated value that would do a simple formula of a calculation to show what that value should be. Or for some of them would be a simple, like flat, simple value, and that would be applied to that line item. And just really quickly, while I'm in the interface, if I click review changes, so this was the whole feature where it has a revisioning system. You can see like this change and a little like visual cue where like it'll even like kind of draw that little line to show like this group was changed, and here's what was changed. It kind of drew the little line here and can show what that change was and who did it and when they did it. And if I wanted to revert it, there's that kind of like rollback little icon. If I click that, it would roll back that individual change, or you can see this line kind of includes these two changes. I can revert it, both of them. Or at the very I think it's this one at the very bottom, I can revert all of the changes if I wanted to. So this revert system is insane. It's very intuitive, very easy to use, very helpful, and I wish pretty much every CMS would have it. It's amazing. So that's it for the CMS and the tour. And that's it for my presentation. Thank